I ignored the fact that the Adaptronic comes with this on there. I just left it open like that, and I had it mounted like this in the car. The fuel system, like shorted out, so I thought it was the fuel relay. Relay's fine. It wasn't until I just took this out.
Oh, nice.
That is not the Adaptronic's fault. I'm not even trying to make up for it. There's a reason why they included this, and my problem is that I someday was going to cut a hole through it and put the USB connector, and someday it never happened. And so I had it mounted like this in the car. It was raining straight down onto open ports.
Jeez.
So I'm an idiot. It would have been even better to have it this way, because these are just pressure sensors, and then these are sealed connectors as well. And as you saw, they hold water inside, so they hold water out of it perfectly. So I should have had the ECU mounted like this if I was going to leave this exposed.
Still dripping.
Yeah, it dripped over there when I first asked you to grab the camera, and it still fires up. That's the crazy part. The ECU fires up. I think you can tell what shorted it out. That is my bad. So look at the water level was this high. It rained really bad. She certainly needs to be dried out first.
You put it in rice?
Yeah, this needs to be put in rice. I'm out at my buddy Andrew Molina's shop, and he works with Halltech and Halltech West. And he saw my sad state of the ECU for the C5 Corvette, and we are finally doing the Elite 2500. This has been an ECU that I know has been like a gold standard for rotaries. It just works. The best part about it is having the big one for the 4-rotor. This has now become like a mini version of the R5 with the way it's interfaced with, and it's incredible. Simple 2 little Super Sport, Super Seal connectors. I'm gonna use this as a barometric. You could use this as a intake pressure or exhaust pressure. I'm gonna use it as just atmospheric pressure. If we ever go to Pikes Peak in the car, that'll help us tell how high up we are. Another CAN bus, expansion, and then this is how you USB into the device. I've gone and loaded up the whole map. This is what I did with the 4-rotor as well. I went and loaded the entire car into this system. So all of the sensors that we have on the car, and then some of them that we want on the car, as well as all the other functions. And so I'm gonna go over this with Andrew real quick, get his opinion on some of this stuff, advice on what to do, and making sure I'm not missing anything. It's the same layout as the 4-rotor, the R5 setup, at a fraction of the cost. You can go this guy with the PDM 16, and that's like the next level between this and the R5. So multiple levels of options here, and scalability for sure.
Takeaways from like an R5 and a 2500 is literally just wiring real estate. The Elite and Halltech has been wonderful, and they actually just developed NSP for the Elite, so it's new, it's up to speed. It's like an iPhone. You get the latest update.
Very iPhone. Yeah, iPhone would be the right. Stuff, yeah. Right? I mean, the price for this reflects an insane amount of value. Even like, I mean, you can run a whole car with this one, right. So I don't want people to think that I love the R5. I am obsessed with the R5, but this is like a baby R5. And almost everybody can start here.
Pretty much. I mean, it's expandable. Like you touched on, the PDM makes it really powerful piece, and then keypads as well. People don't think about it, but you can actually free up I/O with the keypad. Because we're not wiring in switches, we're not wiring in an analog switch or a clutch switch maybe, but you know, user demand stuff or even rotary trim switches. That was an input. We don't do that anymore. It's all via CAN.
Yeah.
So those 2 wires can free up a lot of inputs to this ECU, which allow you to do other sensors and stuff like that. The dash as well can take sensors. So when you wire things directly into the dash, you could free up some pinup. The caveat right now, since it's not 2-way comms, not yet at least, that's something that we're working on. Whatever you wire into the dash, that data stays in the dash. It's not going to be cross-transmitted between the ECU and the dash.
Gotcha.
But moving forward, that's what's going to really make this thing shine, is when the dash actually communicates back and forth. Whatever you wire into the dash acts as an I/O expander.
Yeah, or because you said that PDM 16 is the I/O expander. It's
an extension of the ECU. What's awesome about our stuff versus say like a third-party company is it's all done through one software, right? So when I want to assign a PDM output, I don't assign it as a message or a generic output. It's all done through one software, and you would pick the wire from the other device, being the PDM, all through this one software.
Yeah, that blew my mind, because I was setting this all up last night. This is my big fan pulsing signal, but I was like, well, I need to get power to the fan, so I added a thermal fan here.
There you go.
And then I put, because it's a 50 amp fan, put 2 of the PDM, and it just let me assign it. I could just assign it. SimpliSafe could not be a more instrumental part of my success than it is right now. Not only, as you guys know, have I protected my shop with them, but I also have the situation where Erica is off traveling, and she needs to see the cats at all times. That's Erica watching the cats, taking a screenshot. And of course, what better than using SimpliSafe system to set that up? Not only that, I just traveled back home to Michigan, and here's what I found. When my brother rented my house, he didn't go with SimpliSafe, and we ended up with something that just was painful for me trying to get into the house and, you know, codes and all that. You couldn't do it remotely. I'm glad I got him the SimpliSafe setup. And so we're gonna go ahead and install this. This doesn't go on the outside. This goes on the inside. Entry sensors, carbon monoxide sensor, smoke detector, motion sensors, all of these different things are able to be added on so easily. There I am, real time. You can see me filming this. I'm gonna go ahead and close that. I'm gonna switch over to my home, and then simply enough, just go and check on the cats. And there are no cats currently. There are no cats currently in my living room. If you're interested in getting SimpliSafe for your home, shop, office, apartment, whatever, you get 20% off, and your first month is free when you sign up for interactive monitoring at simplisafe.com/RobDahm. That's simplisafe.com/RobDahm.
Used to have this little short dingus thing, and this is from, I don't know, 3-4 something years ago, and this is actually our breather. So this was left open, which on the drive to SEMA spilled oil everywhere, all through the backside of the car. It's really bad. So I made this guy, which relocates the oil filter right here, and this is now our oil catch can line, which I have where the FD drains its stock turbo oil to. There's going to be a vent, so that way both sides of the motor gets vented and we don't have as much blow by. So that comes to the backside of this, which is lower than this, so it doesn't just spit right back out. This is at the highest point. This guy comes all the way over here to our super happy vibrant catch can, which is filtered, and then also has a little dipstick, so you put it in there, oh, it's pretty much full. Time to empty it out.
It's definitely getting cleaner.
Are you trying to talk to the camera?
Yeah. Something that's saving my sanity right now.
No, dude, that looks like tons of fun.
I'm trying to like put all of the stock stuff in the back corner mounted solidly, and then all the interfaces from the car to my stuff would then go out here. So it'll all sit kind of back in that corner, hiding away, and then all my stuff will be out here. It is extremely challenging to have something look simple. You guys know it's easy to get it working. It's way harder and way more polished to make it look simple. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. It doesn't look simple yet, but the wires have been massively reduced. I cut a ton of excess out, and I also have it where all of the old stuff will be hidden in a corner away, and then it'll interface like right here with all the new stuff out here. So it'll be super clean. It is much cleaner, and the car will be much safer for that, but and it's a little overwhelming step by step. What's going on right now is I'm redoing the core power for this car, mostly because we're using way more power now. We have a bigger fan, we have the water pump, we have the oil pump for the transmission. There's just a lot of higher current usage things. And so I want to make sure that the bus, the core between the engine, battery, and starter alternator, that core is just solid. So I'm upgraded up to 1/0, so it's 0 gauge wire, but 1/0. And the necessity here is that on the battery terminal, no matter what I do, because of the stock car and then my aftermarket stuff, I'm gonna have 2 wires coming off of it. So my current solution to make it much cleaner is we'll get rid of the wing nut and go with a, like a locking nut. But all of that will fit quite nicely under there, instead of my usual where I have one crimped and then another one coming off. There's just no way around it, because we're gonna have it on both terminals like this, and it's gonna be nice and clean. All the wires will tuck back into here and go behind there, and at most we'll have one that loops around and goes to the stock car. Much cleaner, much safer, easier to spot, and all protected as well. For those of you wondering, this particular heat shrink, where it's got that really pretty black layer underneath of goo, that's called SCL. So anybody looking for that, there's ATUM, ATUM, which is kind of looks like the cheaper stuff that you've seen me mostly use, but as soon as my buddy Kev told me about this stuff, I'll never go back. It's super clean. It looks professional. It's got that real nice black finish. Since I've got all of the grounds made and they're very clean, I've begun the positives. So that's the positive carrying power to the fuse relay box for the stock car. So if that one does fall off or has problems, the car will shut off because I'm using the stock ignition circuitry. All of my stuff then daisy chain from here down like this one does, just because that's much cleaner. So we'll have this one, we have these two, completely minimalistic. I'm very happy with that. And then the last wire I need to make, boop that on there. I could plug this back in, but it'll probably short something out. That's all you're gonna see on the battery. Completely. That's it? That's it. That's all the battery you'll see. And that's all, everything going that way. That's all for the power and ground. So we can swap to anti-gravity battery easily instead of having all the extra poles and shit like that.
We're gonna mess over there.
So this is going to be super cool.
Oh yeah. The moment that you get a race car and you have a daily driver, you know which car you end up neglecting. It's the daily driver. And so I am finally, before it gets too bad, I'm finally taking care of the Insight. So I just bought a new hybrid battery for it, and we're gonna go ahead and replace it. Now this is gonna be a little quick segment in another video because I understand it's boring because the race cars are the fun part, right? But I'm kind of curious to see what it takes and what all's involved. So journey on this adventure with me and let's see what it takes to replace a damn battery. Something that's really interesting about this car is you can disable the IMA system, which is the hybrid battery, and it runs just on a 60 horsepower, 1.0 liter, 3-cylinder engine, very small engine. 60 is at best. The hybrid system ends up adding about another 30 horsepower, so you get about 90 horsepower or so on this car. I do not have that. So listen to this startup. Simple enough. Hidden underneath all my shit. Ugh. Stuff's melting. It's over 100 degrees this week, so you might see me sweating heavily. That's because I love Insights that much. This is the whole hybrid system right here. Thankfully, a person tried to rob me, and so they already undid all these bolts. They broke into the car months ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this entire thing is missing bolts, which makes me feel safe and comfortable that if this car gets in an accident, everything can just move. But that is a lot of bolts, so I do appreciate the work that they put into that. The battery is this black box right here. There's the computers on top of it, but this is the battery, this is the IMA system, but we're just basically disconnecting everything around here to pull this out. We're hauling acid through this, which means we're going to get electrocuted at some point. Okay, so the battery is safely secured to the chassis. So you can see that's how long it took. Well, an hour, almost exactly. The real question is, what happens when I, What we're gonna see is we're gonna see these start doing things, and we're gonna see a battery all the way in this corner, hopefully, rise up. Wow, they're already fired up smooth, so the car's got it, yep, there we go. It's got to do a calibration, basically. You hear how smooth that started?
Yeah, way smooth.
That's because the hybrid system actually started the motor, not just the standard starter, like level power. I get 49 miles to the gallon on my highway driving without the IMA system working. So we're gonna go ahead and see that later today. We're driving out to Halltech, and we'll see if that number increases. So you can see the very first sliver of the battery being considered good. Well, there she goes. She thinks that the battery is fairly charged. We're not getting that last bar. Okay, that's good enough for me. We're gonna go ahead and take her out on a maiden voyage. Oh, the assist was just instantly there. So that start and stop stuff is gonna be way better on this car. Instead of go, 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 go. It's even charging, braking in first, okay? So watch the charge and assist parts at the top. Yep, so there you go. It's no turbo, but it certainly feels like it's in that realm. I am a happy man because my system would never kick in like that. And this quick into the trip is including the stop and go, filling up at a gas station, everything, 4 miles in, and we're already above 53 miles to the gallon. The engine will actually do a lean burn. So the gasoline engine will do a lean burn, which is like 20-to-1 air-fuel ratio, when the rest of the car is happy. So now that the IMA system is happy, it'll occasionally do what is called a lean burn, get even better gas mileage. So the gasoline engine can run even more efficiently. It's not necessarily better, but it is using way less gas. So with going to the 2500, that makes this part very easy. These holes actually look like they line up slightly larger, but I guess when you add the pieces back in, it gets close again. The cool part is what's about to happen. This. It's the PD16. It will be. It's just a representation. It's not the real thing. The power distribution for this car. And what's so important about that is we have been using the stock system for way too much. We've relied on it way too much. The voltage is all over the place, and we're adding tons more to it. The transmission oil pump, the fuel system is actually less amperage because it's the Fuel Labs brushless, but then radiator fan was way crazier, controlling the water pump, all from the PD16. The combo is perfect for this car, and we also have some more things that we're bringing to the table that'll make this car utterly insane. This is GM official drive-by-wire throttle body off of, I think, a C6. This is what we use on the 3-rotor, works really well for that, so we'll see how well it handles really low airflow comparatively, for the 2-rotor. Of course, at high horsepower, that'll work great. I saw a video online. It was some random guy in his garage going through and comparing this to like the one from Amazon. The one from Amazon had a really bad position sensor. Like, it was like crappy compared to what's inside of this. It does pay to get the official part or the OEM part, not a knockoff. Now, if it's a shit car, I don't care. Something I'm hoping, I'm unboxing this and then we'll find out later in the video. This is the drive-by-wire pedal. It's kind of weird looking compared to the other ones that we use, which are from like a CTSV. This drive-by-wire pedal is out of a C6 Corvette, and the nice part about that is it has the right connector, which I ordered from ProWire. So this is about $110, I think, shipped for all of this. As I mentioned earlier, with all of the alternator power lines, this is all SCL. So that way we have that nice clean connection. Prevents me from having to buy some of the boots. There's all the SCL there. It's running low on the thinner stuff. This is really nice. I want to show you guys this. You can run through it, use this video kind of as a quick guide, but you pause right there if you're looking for item number or whatever. This is the connector kit from ProWire for the throttle body. I think the product number is that name down there. This is the kit for this pedal right here. They make it really easy. It comes with all the pins and stoppers and all that sort of shit, which is a pain in the ass to source by yourself. I went and got another one of these. Worked really well on the 4-rotor, so I can label everything without making it look like shit. Pressure sensors, tons of those. Flex fuel sensor, I'm pretty sure. The Spall connector fan. It does not work with the C8 fans, but it works with the C7 Z06 fan shroud. So that is the correct fitment. I went with an 8-gauge wire for this, and then two 12 gauges for ground, same kind of amp capacity, good enough for 50 amps sustained. It won't be 50 amps sustained, but that is going to be drawing a lot of current the whole time. One thing about wiring that I've realized the further I go along is, there's some give and take on some things. Like, you can use a variety of gauges or multiple smaller gauges. There's a hard limit. There's definitely a hard limit. So this is another thing that I actually am really proud of ProWire for, because it makes this process simple. I bought this kit, a 12-pin DTM connector, and it comes with both halves, but it also comes with the little locking mechanisms and the correct number of pins for it. And I bought 2 of those kits. Now the reason I bought this kit is it has this lip on here, and as you can imagine, that's for sealing it to the harness. DTM connectors, the pins are rated for like 12 amps. It's somewhere in there, and that's plenty for what we're going to be doing here. 68105, that is the good old ID injector US car, I think it is, or EV6 injector connector. What we're going to be also using one of these for is actually the crank angle sensor. You can see it uses the same connector. Nothing holds us back from making the engine harness. And now that I know my little cardboard thing that Joel made, we can figure out what's going to run from the computer to the power module and back and forth. So there's going to be a whole engine harness. And then as you can see right here, this will be a whole front harness controlling the fan, which is no joke, ignition on circuit for the electric power steering, the fan that's hidden under here for the oil fan, as well as the water pump power. And I'm going to integrate the rest of the stock stuff that we were working with before. So it's all one big stalk going through here, nice and clean. We don't have to waste tons of DR25 making multiple runs. Same kind of thing going to the back to the fuel pumps, back to the oil pump. And all 4 wheel speed sensors, we're going to be replacing all the stock stuff because I want it shielded. It's not shielded. Got my work cut out for me for sure. This is the wire that I'm going to be using. Most important things right there are the 22. All the rest of it is basically saying that it's shielded twisted pair, and it's 22 gauge. So this is going to be the hardcore heart of my engine harness instead of the real big thick one that I used to use. Really slim that down, and then each of the 4 wheel speed sensors will get these as well. We've just gone over this, but in the meantime we just got this. Now, this is one of Halltech's brand new products. Wow, that is way smaller. It looks way bigger in pictures.
When I drew it out, I was like, whoa, that's tiny.
Yeah, when you drew it out, I was like, okay, he doesn't know how to measure. That is the power distribution module, PD16. So it's got 16 circuits. It's got 10 8 amp dedicated circuits. It's got 2 half bridge, which basically, think of half bridge, HBO, as like this. Is that when this one goes up, this one goes down, this one goes up, this one goes down. It can also just both be up, but you tend to use those together to control an actuator like this. Throttle body is technically considered HBO. 4 25 amp outputs as well. I think the unit has a total of 150 amp capacity, but you're not going to be using 150 amps on all circuits at all times. That's 100 amps there, 8 times 10, that's 180. Plus another 8 amps on each of these, you're talking 196. That's not happening. You literally cannot use it to its peak on every channel at all times. But you know, if you're at 9,000 RPM, your ignition system is at full peak performance, which is going through this, your fan it's overheating and there's water on your fan, it's pulling, you can definitely push it up to there, but the unit can handle all of that. Power goes into here to this. And if you remember the 4-rotor stuff, this is like a baby version of the 4-rotors R5 Nexus. This is kind of a really cool combination. Adding these 2 up in terms of price is going to be about $1,000 less than the R5 together. Start with this and then upgrade to this, or get both of these, or you can basically scale how you want to do the car, and they give you some good options there. But what I want to show you is this should have, page up for power, of course, the Sherlock, no shit Sherlock, sure fit connector. So I have right here a 4 gauge wire, which is meant for just that. So we'll clean it up and put that on there, and we'll tie it into the main battery line. So that is one input, and then they sell a plug and play pin kit for the other 2 connectors. So these are, for those of you guys interested in getting into wiring, this is a very common connector on almost all ECUs now. So you can see that there, that there, even the Adaptronic, Motec, you name it, all of them. Oh, even FuelTech, they all have that. The important part is that there's like an A, B, and then there's essentially a C and D. This is basically an A, it's like a 34, 36 pins. Yeah, so both of these are the same, so you can kind of stock up on that particular connector. This is A, that's B, and that's like a 26 pin. And then if you have the full R5, it has 2 more of these, but they are not swappable. They look the same, but then they have keyways that are different to prevent you from putting 1 into 3 and 2 into 4. It's kind of nice there. So then this is a pretty standard DTP. That one can handle whatever 25 amps per wire, and we're going to be using all 12 gauge wire. At this point, I've got nothing but time, or the lack of it. I've got nothing but focusing on and building the harness, which is a very complex harness because it's power and ECU. And one of the important things about this PDM, that matters so much is that it's got an extra 8 to 10 inputs. And so I'm utilizing it to get more inputs, but now I'm sharing inputs, and so I have to make a wild harness that talks to the entire car, the GM stuff, and the engine. With how intimidating this car is for me, every single overly complex thing starts with one simple step. Like I was saying on Instagram last night, I was like, you know, I'm not like a motivational speaker or anything, but like this car is actually really overwhelming for me, juggling with so many things. So just start with something simple, and then your brain gets back into a process of being good. What I'm gonna do is go into my favorite pattern, which is starting the core of the harness, and that is the angle of the dangle, the motor. Rotational angle. And so this is the crank angle sensor. I've marked it out. We're going to go 24 inches plus 38 inches plus 16 inches, 78. So we'll just say an even 80. I like to sometimes just kind of extend that a little bit. Just error. Just pull on it hard enough it extends. That is not true. Harness is done. That's the entire harness. That's all that matters to me. Nope, that is just the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and basically get all of the wires that need to go to this Halltech Elite, and some of them are going to go over to here, some of them are going to split and go to here and here, some of them are going to go other connectors. That's the chaos that I've kind of figured out. The very first wire I'm doing is weird and long, and it doesn't make sense. It's a PWM signal for the fuel pump. So it goes all the way to the back of the car, goes up by the engine, and all the way around. The colors on this one are going to come in super handy because I have it where all green wires are PWM signals. Hey Joel, I want you to film every single one of these. This is Joel's favorite part. Like, don't even fast forward, just enjoy it. It gets really exciting because you do that again.
No way.
You have the chance to do it right every time. And that's really the moral of the story here. Oh. Close there. Oh, there's the 4 wheel speed sensor cores. Weird enough, that's the entire computer now. I just came up with this, but doesn't it look like the Olympic rings?
I hate you.
Joel came up with it, and I thought it was funny, so I stole it. Yeah, that's the entire harness for this. Most of it goes off to the engine, but some of it goes up, backwards, and to here. So there you go. There's connector A and connector B, and it's really funny to me. This is connector B. This is connector A. The wires look counterintuitive, that they're much thicker on this one and thinner on this one, partially because we're not using all the extra injectors and igniters. This is only a 2-rotor, and it's only got 4 injectors, so we're not using as many of the circuits there. And then this one's also thicker because it's got all the wheel speed sensors shielding, which that'll get pulled back. There's the engine harness. Look at how clean that is.
Like badass.
Yeah. And now I gotta work on the power. I happen to love Earth. It's the only home we got. I spent all late last night, and I'm a little loopy, getting all of these wires done. Now, if you guys want those sort of like weird updates as I go along, that's where I do it all on Instagram. I kind of save the YouTube video, the speed of doing all this, but I went and crimped every single one of these wires and put them in. These 2 go to the computer. This one looks a little bit more complex, and this is probably the hardest one. And for those of you wondering, this is the center of the harness again, crank angle sensor, and then that little black wire is the one that's going to go to chassis ground to keep the shield grounded. But the even bigger one that I hid in here quite nicely is all 4 wheel speed sensors all are tied to another ground. This is how complex it gets. The shields aren't tied to anything down here yet, but the actual sensor grounds are all tied to sensor ground in here. Spliced them all together. Put some service loops on these, only so that way you can see right there. See the reason why is that, especially with the crank angle sensor, I don't want you to pull, and that's the one that gets pulled tight. The hard one is the 4 wheel speed sensors, but if those break off, it's not going to stop the car from running. This is a lot of power, a lot of responsibility. So this is for the PD 16. Most of these wires are actually crimped in 2s, so I have 16 amps circuits for different things, fans, pumps, and so on, and then the grounds for it. There's a little guy right here, you want to keep on that one. That one and this one could really stop the car, because this one is what gets signal from the key from the Corvette to say, hey, turn this box on to turn on the computer. And then this one communicates with the computer. Very, very critical. So I'll do the service loop thing on the smaller wires on this one, and let the bigger wires be the rigidity for pulling or twisting or yanking or whatever. We all know what I need to do, but I don't know if I have the emotional availability to do it. What Isaiah just did, he cut off these huge ass fins on here. I'm sure at some point this computer got very hot, but that allows the ECU to fit way tighter into that corner. He's making a mount for this. This will sit somewhere in that same area. All this will get tucked away as you saw before. This is a little bit of the black sheep. He's gonna make one of the sexiest mounts we've ever had for these two. And we're even still gonna be able to keep the logos vertical. So this will sit somewhere like this, and this will sit kind of at an angle like that. The wires will zigzag from down here. All the power wires will split off right here and go off to the front and rear of the car, and then the rest of the data lines will go all up to here, go off to the rest of the car. That's my plan.
The best part about making anything out of plate is this. You get to pull back the plastic, and it's all brand new for the most part, at least. This is how you install this now. So you go like this, right? So this goes up, go to there, right? I'm not going anywhere. That is going to be all covered up.
Say this process is frustrating is a massive understatement. It's just the nature of being in 100-degree weather. At best, we can be 5 degrees colder and it's pure humidity in here because of the swamp cooler. But thankfully, with the Halltech stuff, it is still kind of straightforward. It's just, I've got realistically 3 systems. The GM system, the Halltech PDM, and the Halltech ECU. And so this chaos here, which is a massive upgrade, 2 ECU connectors and then 1 PDM connector, and then 1 PDM power connector. I've got these bundled into sections. This section is simply all 3 connectors going to the engine. No crimping, no splicing, no nothing. This one is the opposite. This is all 3 connectors going to the chassis, the rest of the car. It starts to get complex here with like, okay, these all need to be crimped together to connect the ECU to the PDM, but then they also need to be spliced. These are all to the engine. And then this last one, power and signal lines for the body. You can see that each pile's got a different purpose. And then right here, quickest way to spend a lot of money on wiring is very thick gauge wire. This is all for primarily the rear harness. I'm using 10 gauge for a 25 amp circuit, which is a little overkill, but it's also just because I have excess of that. Also, the run to the fuel pump is 140 inches. Having the thicker wire is certainly going to help. I've also got starter wires, oil pump. The other nice thing is that this connector here is meant for 12 gauge, but it also fits these 10 gauge almost perfectly when you crimp them. It's beautiful chaos, and especially with 3 fans going, it's actually really difficult. And so documenting, I keep going back to documentation over and over again. Our montages will have me staring at it going, what the fuck? The entire thing's documented, but there's like that one wire going from here to there that you didn't, you know, it's not like the rest. So that's why I'm organizing them into different to-do piles. That is super clean. I've been doing as much as I possibly can, which has actually been very painful on my brain, of getting the wiring done without this here. But now I can finally look at, okay, split wires here, tuck this back there. But look at how clean Isaiah made this. That is...
Show them how it doesn't move. Like, grab it. Like,
yeah.
Grab
Yeah,
it.
that is pretty damn solid. That'll be perfect for what I'm about to do.
And a lot of badass work is going to this corner to get hidden. Like, you're never gonna see the badass wire, and like he's showing all this badass stuff. And
I know, and I even planned to have both the logos vertical. Like I did that on purpose. We are going to take this mess over to the car. The easiest one right here is the big power one, right? Like, we know where that's got to go. Nice and straightforward. And the one that is going to take some thinking is this one. All of this wire is going to go through this area right here. And I want to make some of the splits that go off to the rest of the car somewhere in here. This is a test just to see what size I would need, is that it'll go up and over, and without mixing this heavy-duty fan relay with the ECU stuff, it would split off somewhere right in there, and it would be crimped to go to this single wire right here. Now I can get an exact measurement of where I want to do this crimp. I've been waiting for that before I start assuming, and then the wires aren't long enough, they're too long. Over here, it's perfectly circled, but there's like a bulge in here, so it makes it look like I need more wires, but I don't. This has been a very grueling process, a lot of new learning involved for me, but this is the beginning of my PDM. They're all 16 and 18 gauge, so it's very difficult, but I'm gonna go ahead and heat shrink this section, and then right here is where things split off into the front harness, rear harness, and so on. Everything I'm doing right now is a shit show. Start explaining. Easy enough. So this is actually going to help me hold that in place, because now it's going to stick to all the wires as they are, like that.
this is the stock FD pedal. All I did was use one of the bolts, and then I actually just went in and tapped another bolt onto the OEM plate. So all I needed to do was just take off the 2 bolts. This came right off. This little thing comes off from up here, slides all the way through, and the OEM pedal just bolted right in. No issues. So the OEM pedal is in now, and so I went and I got the drive-by-wire set up from the 3-rotor, since we're going to be working on the 3-rotor soon, but we need this kind of right now. This is exactly how far it sticks out now. I'll just chop in that core pipe right here and just fit in it the rest of the way. And then the oil fill that I made now gets hit, so I just got to relocate this. I think I'm just going to twist it or something like that. Honestly, that's not such a bad sacrifice for drive-by-wire.
15 hours is what I spent yesterday from noon till whatever it was, 3 in the morning. I water breaks, quick food, while I'm still looking at the documentation. This is what you get in 15 hours of hauling ass. I am very, very proud of this. It was very painful. It's like an entire car harness. When I said earlier it's like a mini 4-rotor with the way that the computer's set up, I didn't think, oh yeah, it's the entire 4-rotor. Now the 4-rotor I had planned for months. Like I kept planning it, talking with my buddy Kev, going over my plans, and I knew that car very well. This one, I threw myself right in. So let's start with the easy basics, is that you can see that this section is connected right here. This is so that way there's no connector, there's nothing that magically breaks off between the computer and the power module. Those two are connected indefinitely, so that way the connector can't come loose in that fender and we lose power to the ECU or something weird like that. So then all of these things go towards the engine essentially. They don't actually go towards the engine, but they all are aiming that way. This is one connector, two connectors, third one is a connector, but this one, see how long this one is? This one actually feeds inside the car and goes to the clutch switch and the drive-by-wire pedal. Then this one is a totally new thing for me, which if you guys remember the 4-rotor video on wheel speed sensors, you know why I'm geeking out about this. This is my 4 wheel speed sensors thing, and it's done this way so that way I can tap into the stock system. I'm going to run all new wires for the ABS system. The stock ones do not come shielded, and I need that data to be precise, and I want to share it with the stock system, so hopefully the traction control system works. It was working. And then finally, the part that everybody knows the most, looks so small. This is the entire engine harness. When twisted, it's going to look even tighter. This is everything that goes to the engine. So you can see inside here the blue wires are injectors, the red and white ones are 5 volts. Here's some 12 volts for wastegates, and then all the white ones are sensors. Brown and white are drive-by-wire control. And then, of course, my favorite, the crank angle sensor. The only thing that you haven't seen here is that these grounds will get split up, just like this, really nice and clean. That's that end of it. And then you see a lot more coming from here. This one's the simplest one. All the wires are the same color. It's battery ground. I'm blown away with this stuff. So this is where all the heavy current is going, and it comes away from this harness, because if it kept going through here, it could mess up my engine stuff, the data. So let's take a look at the one heavy current one right here. I actually made this part first. It says injectors. I ran out of connectors. Those are for ignition. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are the coils over on the other side of the car, and the grounds to the coils to make spark. This wire is no longer needed because I made all the spares in the harness. And then these two are way smaller than I was expecting. I did not expect them to be this small. This is everything running to the back of the car and everything running to the front of the car. So let's look at this end right down here. So this one right here is the front of the car. Look at that. That is an 8-gauge Tefsel wire. That is a beastly wire. I've also got the water pump and the other fan, the other thermal fan. So all 3 of those power lines are all in here. One of them is for controlling the fan speed, but all these other wires are actually for the stock system. Let me show you what those go to. You see those 2 that I'm pulling on right there? Those are fatter than the existing harness, and those just go to these right here. It's just a pressure and temp sensor and a temp sensor for the stock GM system. So the GM system is reading my radiator coolant and my oil pressure and temperature accurately, and that way I have the HUD heads-up display saying all of that. It's Tefsel wiring now, and it's incorporated into that harness. This gets replaced, and we also have the data line for electric power steering to turn on. Eventually we could turn it into a CAN bus. It would require like a Speeduino or something with CAN communication. It's really, really geeky. So let's take a look at the back of the car. This is the ass of the car. It's got some thick hips on here. This wiring is very interesting. Also, again, really proud of how small it is. A couple major things happening from this point on. This is making it to the back of the engine block, and then it splits off into the starter signals, which is 2 of the yellow wires in there. Splits off into telling the alternator signal wire to the stock system, and then it's got a beefy fuel pump, a little bit of an overkill. It's 10 gauge, really good 10 gauge wire. It's brushless, so it might not need all that, but I don't want voltage drop. And then the oil pump for the TIC performance transmissions. Pulsing wires and temperature sensor for the transmission fluid. This thing is pretty complete. I purposely chose not to put the ABS lines in this harness because it's literally an 8-gauge wire running 50 amps at almost all the time with that front fan, and I would have 2 of these guys like literally right next to it. Now I don't know enough about electronics yet to know, is that too close with that too much current to get bad data from your ABS? I don't know the answer to that. Let's go ahead and hook this into the car and show you what that looks like so far. At this point, this is done to me. The hard part was done, all the data splicing and all that. This is a connector to the stock car. All of these are grounds. Going through there. Hide these in here because that's what they end up going in through there. That's how it all splits. And that's really 90% of what you'll see. So all the nastiness is hidden behind there. And engine, back of the car, front of the car, ABS You'll probably see one or two of these connectors sitting down under here. It'll go behind the plate. This one, and this one are all designed to connect to all the bullshit that's right here. For accessibility, I'll probably have them loop behind it and then connect in back there. So there you go. With a couple pieces of DR25, it looks 10 times better. The ends are the easy parts. This is the critical part. Now, this is one of the biggest knots I've made, and there are tons of little splices in here to get between the ECU and the front, the rear of the car, dividing signals all the way throughout the car. This is a little boot that actually was given from a man who had his father's all of his old military equipment, and this military equipment actually was very similar to that. So I'm going to use this boot. That's why it looks a little older. But what I'm going to do is make sure it's got a little bit sticky inside of it, but I'm going to actually hit these corners with some roughing up, so that way I can put even more compound inside of there, some more epoxy basically, and make sure that this sticks, because it's really on the edge. It's quite a big knot. I was close to making it smaller, but I learned some things along the way. But what I'm really interested in doing is making sure I get juice inside of there to seal all of this off, because it has all those different splices in there. That's what I'm protecting, is I don't want the harness to short out, because there's a sensor ground splice and there's a 5-volt splice or 12-volt splice. This is one of my favorite parts. Painful when it doesn't work right, but when it works right, oh, it's amazing. So we're going to go ahead and a new nozzle on here. I'm actually going into the center first. And I don't know exactly how this is going to go. It's right on the edge, the boot length. Using more of that in a second, but this is the fun step that looks so cool. I could not have asked that to go any better. The boot expanded a little bit, so it got longer as it was clamping down, which is occasionally what happens. And I can finally do this. So you can see that's a pretty hollow boot. While it's still warm, we're going to be dumping tons more of this into there. This is the look of a man who has accomplished a lot and has seen a lot. Not really, but what I have done is accomplished quite a bit of stuff. This is about 6 hours of work from the last shot. The reason that this took a little bit longer, I wanted to make it super clean. I'm using that SCL. That presents really well. So I wanted to make sure that the transitions weren't like fat. So all that was planned out. Even this one right here, really pleased with that. I got a couple crimps in there. It looks phenomenal. I also was very particular. The other thing is that, for example, something as simple as your back pressure, the ground for that back pressure, because the signal is coming from the PDM instead of the ECU, so I made the grounds a different type of wire so I could differentiate with that. But I had to make sure, okay, let me pin test which wire this is and then give it its correct ground. I went through all of these doing that because some of the sensors are coming from the ECU, some of them are coming from the PDM, and I just didn't want to mix that up. I've reached out to Halltech, and maybe somebody from Halltech can tell me, can I have the same sensor ground together, or is that going to piss off the boxes? Kind of excited. I have drive-by-wire all by itself, and then I have all of my oils and my fuels all in one corner. This just goes to the intake manifold separately, manifold pressure and air temp, and they actually kind of, the way Isaiah's got the sensors, it kind of does like a stethoscope listening to the air. Here, of course, we have all 4 injectors. I made them all the same length just because at this point it's easier just to use these and go to the longest length of all of them. Gives you some room for flexibility. And then finally, but this is the ones that go to the front. So you got your crank angle sensor, the heart of the car, engine temp, ECT, EMAP, and wastegate position, but it's really the wastegate controller. You can see the logic I have, at least why they're separated this way. And the other reason you want to separate them like this is because it's a waste of tons of 1/8" DR25 to have all 4 of these go to the very back here and just have that. Like that's just a waste of material. So it saves you some material right here. All the crimps are done back here. So technically all the wires are individually in here. There's no crimps in any of these. So what I'm going to do now is haul ass and get all of the ends put on these as quick as possible, so that way Isaiah can get the engine put back together, and then while he's working on the engine, I'm going to work on connecting the car to this. Last thing is I'm really happy with my weird ass plan. You can see from that point of view is all the high power stuff stays up, and we'll have some sort of mounting to keep it up away from the engine, and then this will kind of dip back down there, go to the starter, and so on. Important data basically doesn't run parallel with both the ground and the power, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but ground isn't as safe as you think it is. It's ground because it's the generally agreed upon center of the car, but power still carries through it. It's a full circle. So you could have a ground wire right next to your stuff and also basically treat it like a power wire. Electrons come rolling through that thing just as fast as you've set it up to do. That actually only took an hour to do what I just did. I thought there'd be a lot more swearing. I can still swear, it's just that I don't need to at this point. I'm extremely happy with this. I even did some cosmetic work with it. These didn't really need this, but I just wanted it to not look like 2 layers of heat shrink. I also, on the ends of each of these boots, I sealed those, but I did not seal this end because it's so tight and it lets me rotate it without having to think ahead of time. The only one that I'm really proud of that I rotated is this one right here. This is the crank angle sensor. And look at that boot. That boot is placed exactly how I wanted it. And because on the front of the motor, that crank angle sensor plugs in here and I want it to come directly back to the motor. Flex fuel, that's an old boot from a military setup, so that boot worked out perfect. And the same thing with the drive-by-wire. I happen to have spares of those 2 boots. My personal favorite thing, look at the center of the nutsack, that weird-ass line. Why is that, first of all, why is that on your testicles? I have no idea. But that little seam right there is vertical, basically vertical, on all 4 injectors. We're gonna let this cure. I'm gonna work on the rest of the rear harness that connects to the alternator and the starter, tuck that away, and by the time I'm done with that, this should be tacky enough to install the engine, then I'm no longer the main holdup. You occasionally see new products being tested in the rotary aftermarket, and most of them are from Elliot from TurboSource Turbo. And so he sent us his replacement or upgrade upper intake manifold for an FD that we're going to unbox, and we're going to test it. This isn't the finished product, so we're going to test it back to back for him on this car and see with semi-P and all that, see if we see any sort of performance gains, response gains, all of those sort of things.
Feel how cold it is. Joel's been working on that all day.
Oh, come on. Come on.
If you guys are able to feel this, this is like, it's about to freeze.
That's nice.
Oh, this is really nice. That big old plenum in there.
Are you ready?
Oh yeah, ready. I was almost right.
Oh my god. Elliot. This is looking really good. We're just gonna try not to like have them all collapse on each other. I love DR25, the sheathing on this, because you don't see it when it's all said and done. It completely disappears. So when I first built this, I thought it was my best harness, and it was my best harness ever. And I thought it was a final harness, like nothing else was needed. I've learned a lot. I wasn't using the right type of wire, and I wasn't using the right type of shielding. Other than that, it really is the exact same concept. It really does work exactly the same way. I didn't do this. This was so that way we could have 6 injectors. There's 2 more injectors hidden in there. It's funny to see how perception of it, the way it looks, and weird issues or whatever. Never going to use this harness again, unfortunately, but it certainly worked. It's kind of crazy. You look at this compared to that. That almost got on before Joel started filming, and Joel was going to be let go. So it's kind of a race to get him fired.
That's a very crucial moment in Joel's career.
Yeah. I think every day is a very crucial moment in his career. We are looking at the very back of the car. This is the rest of the power to the fuel pumps and the oil pump for the transmission, and then an optional but very interesting to find out temperature sensor for the transmission. Tick performance, I love and hate you guys because you guys have made me aware of something that I've ignored for the longest time, and that is the whole point of the pump is to lubricate the inside of the transmission as well as we can cool it. We have actually cooling running back and forth. Now I need to know what the transmission temperature is at all times. This is the total length of this red wire that I've ran. Check this out. Keeping it all up and under through here. Run nice and clean over to here. And look at that. That's right where that wire ends. And it needs to be right here. I guessed and I gave some overestimates. I'm gonna start sheathing the rest of this. that is the end of this rear part of the harness. And we'll start with the most important one, the fuel lab. Brushless fuel pump. Very clean, very easy to get to. I love that Isaiah spent a lot of extra time on this plate because here's where it pays off. This is a representation of how my brain works. Very, very close to being done. Check out all the work I've done. All this looks basically the same, I'm sure, to you guys, but it's not. I got way more shit in there. I've got the wideband O2 sensor in there, and I've got everything all terminated properly. Just gotta get some wild boots that go from this big to this small. Everything to the car is terminated. The tach, the starter wires. This is spares. This is multiple inputs and outputs. CAN bus, all the other extra stuff if we ever want to upgrade the car. We have all the way up to the front of the car done. So Joel just went to AutoZone and picked up some stock connectors for the GM stuff. Like this is the very front fan that goes right in there for the oil system. So this Sherlock, no shit, Sherlock fitting is rated for 120 amps. Well, it is meant to go on this wire right here. This is a 4-gauge wire, and it is rated for 120 amps in the short run distance that you're going. We could stick with that, but here is a 2-gauge wire, and it does not fit on there, so we're gonna pull some of the threads out, but that means that throughout this entire wire, it's not going to be heating up as much as the smaller one might, just because of the sheer amount of usage that we're going to have on the PDM. The circuits that are on that PDM are all mission critical. I'm being a little controversial for myself because conventional knowledge says do not put your ignition system on a solid state PDM. That's how it's been for years. Well, we did it on the 4-rotor and it works perfectly fine. So we're gonna do that on this one as well. We've got all 4 coils, which can go up to about 20 amps at peak, absolute peak, if they're all dwelling and shooting off at 9,000 RPM. We also have the main fan at 50 amps. So right there we got, let's say 70 amps. Then we got the oil fan, which would be another 15 amps. Then we've got the water pump, which is another 10 to 15 amps. Then we've got the oil pump for the transmission, another 10 to 15 amps, plus the fuel pumps, which is up to 20 amps. It won't be 20 amps, but it's close to. At full tilt, the worst thing you could do is start having massive voltage drop or cause yourself a fire. So this is what it's rated for, and this is what would work just fine. But we're gonna go ahead and use a 2-gauge wire. This connector is rated for a 25 millimeter squared wire. And if you guys remember, pi r squared is how you figure out the radius, and then you figure out the area of this wire. And so this wire right here is 5.5 millimeters across. Half of that times squared, blah, blah, gives you 23 millimeters squared. That's exactly what this connector is rated for. The crimping it's just a little loose for what I want. This one is 7.5 millimeters across, and that's 44 square millimeters. Way bigger. The other downside to what I'm about to do is this fitting is gonna be a pain in the ass to get over this, but it'll be worth it for me. I'm gonna struggle with this. You're gonna see a lot of pain, but it's worth it.
I heard you're good at fitting big things into small things.
This is my specialty, really. Really big things. Did you see the meme that was like, you start talking to a girl and she hits you with the, hey, I need new coils and everything for my RX-8. You know, oh, I said, that's how Isaiah got me. You have to see the meme. It's actually pretty funny. This had me laughing. When you get her number and text her good morning and she says, I'm doing okay. I just need new spark plugs, coils, and faster starters so my RX-8 will start, but I'll figure it out. That's how you got me.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. We've all heard that one. So I like that. It's really nice. It's funny because it looks super janky the way I'm doing it, cutting all this wire off of there, but the correct wire is much smaller than that. That's a real tight fit, and look at how much wire I cut. Make my makeup artist skills. That's gonna be good. Yeah. There she is. I feel confident that's not going anywhere. That's beautiful. Let's see how that's gonna look on the PDM. Oh. It's very, very taxing on the mind and body, but we are ready for our first power on test. All of the inputs, drive-by-wire pedal, throttle, sensors, ECU, power, make sure the fan works, the fuel pump works, the oil pump works. Every single thing has to be gone through step by step. I have mastered this setup. Once you know how to operate these two devices together, things are very powerful. So right now I'm just testing each circuit. This is the baby water pump right there. So we're gonna go ahead and go to 10%. We're gonna go to 50%. And then 100%. And back to 0. What's wild is that doesn't have a pulsing circuit on there. On the PDM, I can actually pulse the 12 volts on and off. And so it'll basically turn the pump slowly and then turn the pump fully. Very powerful thing for us to have it lower at low, higher at high. But I'm honestly gonna have it at like a medium and then high. Also, listen to this. So you can hear that. That is the oil pump for the transmission. It takes about 10 amps to run right now, and I think Isaiah's got it all filled up, so that is accurate. It would be a lot lower. I'm gonna tell it to, hey, wait until the engine's running. I'm going through each circuit. As you can see how quick that is to set all these up. I haven't even messed with the sensors. All I've done has been messing with power. Ignition, I'm gonna just disable that for the moment, because we don't really care about the ignition right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and plug the heavy power in. And there's the fuel pump. Go ahead and unplug that. Smell it. Did I say I forget to plug something? Yeah. I smell it for sure. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. It was the moment I smelled it, I turned it off. This is super exciting. You can see all the little lights on there. They're not twinkling, but in my mind they are. All those different circuits are on. So what I'm gonna do right now is test all of the inputs. So your pedal, your temperature sensors, your pressure sensors, clutch switch, any input that you can think of, I'm gonna go test all of those first before we start doing more of the outputs.
Since we have an OEM Z06, we need the Z06 wheels to match with it. Our actual C5 wheels are stuck in Michigan because those are our burner ones for the 4-rotor. So we put the old 4-rotor ones on here. The fronts are way too big and you can't turn it properly. So we just found this set of Z06 C5 wheels over in LA. These guys are OEM, so they have to fit, right?
We just calibrated the throttle body past the first time, and then I figured out the wiring on the pedal properly. And so now, if you go over by the engine, listen to Isaiah press the pedal. That's awesome. Are we ready to test the fuel system again? Yes. Is she still leaking?
Yeah, from the front now.
Transferred the leak from the rear to the front. Stonks. This is the center of it all right now. I'm gonna go ahead and say 10% fan. Okay, so 10%, it's teasing.
Yeah, it's not enough for it.
Okay,
So much more.
Yeah, that used a total of 32 amps to do that. It will raise even higher if there's water on the radiator and so on. And that's at 85%. I have to mess with my pulsing settings to get it to be at the peak of it, but that's pretty much the full fan. And a brushless fan at 35 amps is a pretty powerful fan indeed.
I was okay with this.
We got a zoom lens for a reason.
That tastes disgusting.
I did it last time. There it goes. It started to.
See, the problem is I use my tongue every time.
Why is he twisting his hand like that? I don't know who, but somebody in here forgot to get a manifold pressure sensor. Thankfully, thanks to having Vibrant and the Elite, there is an intake pressure sensor on the ECU. So I was going to use that for barometric when I get the proper sensor. It's great because it doubles as this. If you use like an oil pressure sensor, any fluid pressure sensor, that's normally traditionally 0 to 150 psi, G, or 0 atmosphere, not a vacuum. So PSI-A is the type of sensor you want. Easy enough on the ECU, I just flip it from my sensor to that one. Done. It's an hour and 10 minutes left of Seven's Day. Seven's Day is always pain for some reason, but not now. This is a beautiful redemption moment. And so every system tested out fine. We're gonna go ahead and crank it.